Good afternoon and good morrow to thee, my loyal subjects. My name is MiAh the King. What am I the king of exactly? Nothing at all, and proud of it. So today we're taking a look at a game called Sheltered 2 that came out on Steam earlier today. The long-awaited sequel of Sheltered, a game I was a huge fan of back in the day, and a game I spent probably 100 hours playing. Developed by Unicube and published by Team 17, I was super excited for this game to finally come out, and I am super excited to finally be taking a look at it today. So without further ado, here we go. By the way, as of right now on the Steam store page, the game is not in early access, though I believe the developers have stated that they intend to add more things later on. I'm not entirely sure what the difference is, but there you go. Anyway, a brutal survival management simulator set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Keep your faction of survivors alive, maintain your shelter, and scavenge the ravaged world for resources. Befriend and trade with the factions you meet or conquer them by force. So, do they live up to all the hype or the info on their Steam store page? Well, let's find out first by looking at the positives. Number 1. The game looks really good, and it feels really good while you're playing it. And what I mean is, together with the graphics and overall stability of the game, it felt pretty good while also looking pretty good. A nice smooth art style that really works for them here, and it's a huge improvement over the previous installment, so no complaints there. I even love the lighting elements here, and you'll get to see those here in just a moment. Number 2, the game's stability. The game was pretty solid and pretty stable, at least for me. Now, I've heard other people are having their own issues with bugs or whatnot, so keep that in mind, but for me, I didn't experience any kind of real big bugs or crashes or anything devastating like that. It all ran fairly smoothly and worked fairly well, so I personally have no complaints. In fact, the reason why this is a positive is because of how smooth the gameplay was. Even the transitions were smooth and didn't drag on, which was a nice change of pace. Number 3. They really buffed up a lot of the old gameplay mechanics while also keeping them similar to the older design. There is attention to detail in the items, the character customizations, leveling up, different terrain, and different exploration options. All the different things you can do both inside and outside of your shelter, not to mention the politics of the game, because, you are the leader of your own faction, and you're going to have to use diplomacy to deal with other factions nearby. It's all really cool and really in-depth and tons of fun to explore around with and mess with, and it really just kind of sucks you in. Number 4, the price tag. I mean, just from what I'm experiencing right here, there is clearly going to be dozens upon dozens of hours of gameplay here. So the length of the game is appropriate, along with the quality and graphics, the gameplay, the stability, the attention to detail, all the little stuff you get to do. I mean, I basically greatly appreciate that price tag of $20 because, hell, at $20, this is pretty much a steal right here. You are getting one heck of a good deal. So, that's all the positives that I got. That's all the pros. Kick that out in less than 3 minutes. I'm on a roll today, or maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. Basically, I didn't have to nitpick this time, and I actually have really good positive points. So even though there's only 4 of them, they're a great 4. So keep that in mind as we move on to the negatives. Although, before we go too much further, I'd like to take a brief moment to humbly request to all of you beautiful viewers out there if you would do me the honor of joining my kingdom of nothing. How can you do that, you ask? Simple. All you need to do is hit that subscribe button. But if that's a bit much, then how about just hitting the like button or leaving me a nice little comment? And if you really want to help, then share my video. In fact, all of that really helps me out quite a lot, more than you'd think, and I'd be very appreciative. So spare me but a moment of your time to support my channel. It costs you nothing and helps me a ton. Thank you very much. Now then, back to the negatives. Number 1, the UI, or the user interface. It's a bit annoying. It's confusing. There are too many screens with too much information, and the game wants you to click around a bunch to navigate and get through anything, and it's all really frustrating. For example, I don't like the overall map mechanics. The process of having to go in and click several buttons just to get your expedition to move a few feet over and over and over again, only for them to find nothing each and every time, and the only reason why you're even doing it is because you're trying to expand the fog of war so you can see the map a little bit more clearly, and it's just ridiculous. It takes like 6 clicks in and out for you to get into your map, tell them where to go, and then get out of your map for literally nothing to happen, for you to spend the next minute waiting. If you're going to use this kind of gameplay mechanic, game devs, then please reveal more of the map, reveal all of it, or something. Even if it is all revealed, it's not like it's going to make that much of a difference. It's just going to make the overall gameplay a little bit simpler and a little bit easier for all of the players out there, and that's what you want, right? You want a nice, fun, thing for your players. You don't want something needlessly complex or annoying. Not only that, but the combat is a little bit frustrating. I can understand having a slightly complicated combat system. That's not what my issue is here when I say that it's a little bit too complicated. What I'm saying is that it's needlessly complicated. So what I mean by that is basically the game is asking you to verify your attack twice. Click, then click, then click, before you can finally attack, and that's just with your fist. And what's worse, you watch as the AI basically goes through the exact same motion you went through when fighting against you. I mean, it's a little ridiculous. It doesn't need to be this complicated. You know, just narrow it down, game devs. Make it simpler for when you have no items, and then maybe add a little bit more of a complicated mechanic after you've gained some armor and some weapons. You know, otherwise I'm just sitting around for 5 minutes watching a bunch of lame-os punch each other until eventually someone falls over and dies. Number 2, the game's tutorial only goes on up to a certain point, which is really irritating to me. It clearly hasn't taught me anything about some of these things that are once you get further in, but it just up and disappears for no reason. I didn't hit the button to get rid of it or anything, so why is it doing that? It's annoying. And I mean, come on, just a little bit more. I mean, if they just given me a little bit more tutorial, I would have been able to cover almost everything the game is going to offer, at least for this stage. So, I don't know, it was just annoying to me that it just cut out all of a sudden when I finished a task, and it was just like, oh, well, I guess you just know how to play now. Like, no, you didn't explain to me anything in regards to, like, what this means. You know what I mean? Number 3, the game's sound. For the most part, it's almost exactly the same as the older game, which is depressing. I wasn't impressed with any of the music, and as for the sound effects themselves, I mean, they're kind of there, and they're kind of good, so, I mean, it's not the best. You know, sometimes they're missing, sometimes they're not. When they're not missing, they just, you know, sound really kind of lazy. You know, so nothing to write home about there, nothing real interesting there. But, yeah, so that's all I could think of for both the pros and the cons. And I was seriously nitpicking with both of those, by the way. So, what are my final thoughts? Well, overall, I was just really enjoying myself. I was very quickly losing myself to the game and finding myself wanting to just keep playing over and over again. It was a case of that whole one more turn feeling whenever playing Civilizations or games like it. You know, I just wanted to gather more, get better, get stronger, and make a name for myself and my little bunker. And with being able to fully customize everyone in your bunker, it helps to make it more personal. The way of specializing each character helps make them feel more real. The struggle to survive and forge ahead is really hard, really realistic, and really addictive, which I really liked because, you know, the difficulty wasn't too hard. The survival mechanics are fairly easy enough to understand, and the realism was really nice too. Basically, everything was still doable, if that makes sense. And honestly, I was just really enjoying myself. So, if you liked the first game, or if you like simulation survival games similar to this, then you're going to love this. It's going to scratch that itch for you, no problem. It even has a lot more in-depth mechanics to it than a lot of games do, but not in an overwhelming kind of way, which is very pleasant. You know, you're going to get your money's worth here. But if you're looking for something that's more quick and action-based, I recommend you looking elsewhere. I mean, you've been watching me play, and this is pretty much the gameplay, you know, sitting around and watching a mostly empty shelter. I don't know if there's going to be any combat footage in this or whatnot because this video is turning out to be really short, but I mean, this right here doesn't matter because this right here is mostly what you're going to be doing. But I mean, hey, it's fun for me and probably for a lot of people, so if you've been watching and listening and you like what you hear and like what you see, then man, I highly recommend you check this game out. That price tag is hard to ignore for all of the things that this game is giving you, and I highly recommend you give it a shot. But if you're not liking what you're seeing and if you don't like what I've heard, then I would recommend you look elsewhere because that's pretty much all there is to this game. A lot of sitting around, waiting, and managing resources with the occasional conflict, which is probably why this video is a lot shorter than most of my other ones. Overall, I think the game is worth it. I highly recommend everyone at least give it a try. Even if you're looking at it thinking this might not be for me, I still would recommend give it a try. The first hour is going to let you know how the game's going to be and you'll know if you're going to like it or not and you can get your refund. So at least give it a try. I know that I'm probably about to lose a lot of my own personal time to this game. So that's all I got for this episode, everybody. I hope I was able to help some of you out there to save some money, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.